Do you take the president at his word? Is a Codell like this necessary?
Well, the Codell is simply a reaction, excuse me, to a policy that I would describe as unnecessary and misguided. We can get whatever economic and military arrangements we want with Greenland without pressuring them or bullying them, much less with doing something that would essentially transform the United States in the eyes of many into a rogue actor and undermine NATO. So this seems to me unnecessary. God invented diplomats for a reason, and the reason is to negotiate special arrangements. Greenland and Denmark are more than willing to do that if we would only meet them halfway.
Well, you mentioned the president's policy on this, and I'm not sure I'm entirely clear on what it is. We've heard that he's interested in potentially buying Greenland, that there might be kind of a half measure in which there's an expanded relationship as opposed to a military invasion. We're not really talking about a NATO member invading another NATO member's territory, are we?
I don't think so. The real question is, what if Greenland refuses to be bought? What if Denmark refuses to sell? And then the question is, what is the United States reaction? What kind of pressure do we apply? And again, I understand the importance of Greenland strategically, economically. We can debate it, but this is unnecessary. There's lots of ways to get to where we want to get without turning this into a heavy-handed piece of foreign policy theater. It's just ill-advised, and it really is unnecessary.
Before I bring you to Iran, I'm curious your thoughts just on the domestic politics here to see Republican lawmakers crossing the ocean to reassure Denmark that Congress will not support the president. How significant is this moment?
Look, it's always nice to see Republicans rediscovering Article 1 of the Constitution and that Congress has a role to play. That said, presidents, not just this president, but every president enjoys enormous latitude and leeway and discretion when it comes to the making of foreign policy. So it's, again, I appreciate the trip. I think it sends a useful signal that of support for NATO and for a proper relationship. But again, the president is basically the one who has the lion's share of the influence on this issue.
More happy talk, strangely, about Iran in the driveway just now. Richard Haass, President Trump saying that he greatly respects Iran's decision to not execute anti-government protesters, knowing that more than 3,400 have been killed already. We heard from Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt on the president's decision to slow roll any potential strikes. Here's what she said.
The president and his team have communicated to the Iranian regime that if the killing continues, there will be grave consequences. And the president received a message, as he revealed to all of you and the whole world yesterday, that the killing and the executions will stop. And the president understands today that 800 executions that were scheduled and supposed to take place yesterday were halted. And so the president and his team are closely monitoring this situation.
Are we to believe, Richard, that the president of the United States is actually affecting outcomes right now in Iran? And do you buy this softer rhetoric while military options remain on the table?
Well, a couple of things. It's possible that the Iranians have backed off doing the public executions, but as you've pointed out, they've killed thousands of people since this president first threatened them with consequences if they went ahead and did it. Second of all, for all we know, these people are incarcerated. For all we know, they're going to be killed. I don't see any change in the behavior of the Iranian regime. I think the administration can't quite figure out what its policy is. It got very forward on its skis with its rhetoric. It didn't deliver. It didn't back up its words. And arguably, it never should have said those things in the first place. We can't use military force to bring about a change of regime in Iran. We can't use military force to protect individual Iranians protesting the regime. So I really think the administration needs to take a step back and come up with a sustainable policy to try to bring about change in Iran on its nuclear program, its support for proxy groups, on how it treats its own people. And it ought to be a more patient, disciplined program. But we're not going to bring about regime change in an afternoon, even if we were to attack them. Iran simply has too many people in place who want to sustain this system.
You write in an op-ed in the Financial Times. Two things can be true at the same time. The Iranian regime is closer to collapse now than at any time since the 1979 revolution, which is quite a statement to hear from you. Yet it is still not on the brink of collapsing. And this was suggested as one of the reasons why President Trump decided not to move, that the military options on the table were not convincing enough that it would, in fact, topple the regime. We've got an aircraft carrier on the way right now. It's probably 2 weeks out, if reports are right. This is the USS Lincoln that's on its way to the Mediterranean. Is that when something happens?
But again, we could shoot off, cruise missiles. We could send in some planes, but that's not going to bring about regime change. Regime change takes sustained effort. It's got to be a situation that is incredibly brittle, and then you've got to follow it up. As bad as the situation is in Iran, why does anyone assume that a successor situation would be so much better? Maybe the bad guys would have even more power at that point. Mm-hmm. And you know, and I know, Joe, that this administration, which wasn't prepared to get involved in Venezuela in a serious way, is not going to get involved in a country of more than 90 million people. Yeah, that would make Iraq or Afghanistan look like a cakewalk by comparison. Yeah. So I don't think we're really in a position to promote regime change directly with military force. The real question is using economic tools and the like, whether we can move Iran in a direction that we want to see.
Well, even with all the things we're talking about here, President Trump's got a Nobel Peace Prize, I guess, hanging on the wall in the Oval Office. Do we look at this as Donald Trump's Peace Prize now?
Nobody looks at it that way. More important, I think the leader of the Venezuelan opposition, I think she was hoping to play Donald Trump by offering him the Peace Prize. She would get a Russian. Instead, she got played. The opposition still has no clear role in the future of Venezuela.